In this session, we will be continuing our discussion on vectors. Vector part 1 is already it's already on YouTube, and I will link the URL in the description box. So let's get started. Throughout the session, just an FYI, when I'm using the word vector space, it just applies to finite dimensions. I'm not talking about infinite dimensions at this point in time, because the information is going to be overwhelming if we will be discussing an infinite dimensional vector space. It's a little hard to envision. So at any point in time, if I'm referring to a vector space, it refers to a very finite dimensional space. Okay. The first topic we need to understand is a field. So a field is a list in which any pair of numbers can be added, subtracted, divided, obviously by a non-zero element, or multiplied, is called as a field. You cannot divide a number with a zero because that's a non-defined situation in maths. So now this is an example of a field. It is a list of numbers, and these numbers can be added together, subtracted, multiplied, and divided. So it satisfies the condition for it to be a field. Now fields can be of two types again. You can either have an infinite field or a finite field. Infinite field, as the name indicates, will be a field which has infinitely many elements. You can divide, subtract, multiply, add any set of numbers in the list. So examples are rational numbers, real numbers, complex numbers, because the numbers extend until infinity. Infinite set of elements we have in these ranges, and you can do the following four operations on them, right? So it's an infinite field. Finite field will be the one which has finite set of elements. So here we have just 3 elements, and then you can perform the 4 operations. You can add them, subtract, divide, multiply them in a finite field. So this is a finite field. Now we'll be discussing vector spaces. A vector space V over F, denoted by V over F or just V, is a non-empty set, and then it has to satisfy the following conditions. The first condition is of vector addition. For every pair U comma V which belongs in V, that is the vector space, there corresponds a unique element such that when you add them, it also belongs in the vector space. So it's called the addition of vectors. Okay, so the following conditions needs to be satisfied in that case. The first one is U plus V will also be equal to V plus U. U plus V plus W will also be equal to U plus V plus W together. V has a unique element denoted by 0 called the zero vector that satisfies the condition that if you add 0 with any vector, you get the vector back for every U which belongs to the V in the vector space. That is the additive identity. And for every U which belongs to V, there is an element W which belongs to V that satisfies the condition that U plus W is equal to 0. So additive inverse is also there in that space. These conditions have to be satisfied. So if I have an example of 2, 1 and 3, then the first thing is that if U and V belongs to a vector space V, then 2 plus 1, that is the addition of the two elements, should also be a part of the list in the vector space, and we have 3 because 2 plus 1 is 3. So it is satisfying the vector addition condition. Now let us see the other conditions. So U plus V should also be equal to V plus U. So that is 2 plus 1 will also be equal to 1 plus 2, correct? So this condition is also satisfied. U plus V plus W will be equal to U plus V plus W together. So you either add first U plus V together and then add this to W, or you can actually add these two together and then add this to U, and then still the condition will be satisfied. So this condition is satisfied again for this case. Now V has a unique element denoted by 0 called the zero vector that satisfies the condition. So keep in mind, whenever you have a vector space, you need to have a zero vector. Why is it needed? I'll just give a very rough overview, because anything when you are talking in vector spaces or in physics actually starts from nothing. It's still debatable in many aspects, but my personal research suggests it starts from 0 point and then extends over in multiple infinite directions. So adding a zero vector is actually an important aspect of a list in a vector space. Alright, so that's why we need to keep it, and it will become more intuitive when we will be solving questions and when I will give a little more theory about vectors in further sessions. So zero vector needs to be a part of this list, and then for every u which belongs to V, there is an element w which belongs to V that satisfies u plus w equals 0. So if 2 plus 3 is a part of this, then we will also have some other value which makes sure when you add them, it gives you a 0 back. So let's say if I have a 3, then I might have minus 3, and I might have a minus 2, and I might have a minus 1. So when you add 2 plus minus 2, you get a 0, plus minus 1, 3 plus minus 3, you get a 0. So these conditions are satisfied. This is the first condition. Okay, there's a scalar multiplication and distributive associative properties as well for a vector space to be a vector space over a field. Okay, and this is just one of them. We'll discuss the other two now. The second one is scalar multiplication. So for each u which belongs to V and A which belongs to the field, there corresponds a unique element A when multiplied by u is a part in the vector space. Okay, so basically we are saying that multiplication is closed in a vector space. So let's say you have A which is a scalar in the field, and then there's B which is again another scalar, and you have a vector element u here. So if you multiply the vector with the scalar and then multiply it with another scalar, will be equal to, you multiply the two scalars together and then multiply it with the vector, which alpha A comma B beta or alpha comma beta or A comma beta belongs to the part of the field and u belongs to the part of vector space. So the next property is, if you multiply that vector with a 1, you will get the vector back. So u belongs to V where 1 belongs to the field. This property also has to be satisfied. In a nutshell, I'm trying to say that vector space is closed under multiplication. So you multiply them and then that value is actually a part of vector space. Okay, so you're multiplying the scalars together and then multiply it with a vector, or you just multiply the vector first with a scalar and then again multiply it with a scalar. It will be closed for this multiplication. The value will still be a part of vector space when I say it's closed under multiplication. Okay. Distributive laws relating vector additions with scalar multiplication for any alpha comma beta which belongs to the field and u comma v which belongs to V. Following distributive law holds true. So this is a scalar value, and then either you can multiply it with the addition of two vector spaces, or you can individually multiply them with a vector and then add it over. So this property holds good too, and this is called as distributive law because you're distributing the multiplication over the addition. Similarly here, so if you have two scalars and then you have one vectors and you're adding the two scalars, you can actually multiply the first scalar with a vector and then add the second scalar with a vector. So addition is closed in the vector, addition is closed over the field and it's a part in the vector space. So these properties should be, a vector space should satisfy to be a vector space over a field. Okay, and we need to remember them. It's the first one is vector addition is closed over the field vector space, scalar multiplication is closed in the vector field space, and distribution laws is closed under vector field space. And when we say it's closed in the space, that means when you multiply it, the value still is in the set, and then when you add it, the addition value that you get is also in the part of the space. So that is why we say it's closed under those operations. Okay. Now some important definitions. If V is a vector space over real numbers, then V is called a real vector space. If V is a vector space over C, then V is called as a complex vector space. In general, a vector space over R or C is called a linear space. It might sound so obvious, but what I really want us to look at it is, if V is a vector space over R, so this R is the field here. So your field defines what kind of a vector space is actually created. Okay, it might sound so obvious again, but it is not so to many situations that we apply to. For instance, if you are doing certain specific actions, your results will be a part of those action field sets, right? Such a basic law which can be explained on the vector space. So if you do, if you really like a computer science, or if you like programming, and if your actions just so let's put our actions on a on a number line. Let's say that you like coding, so you practice coding 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then again you practice your maths from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then if you put a number line to your actions, okay, which might be a finite or infinite, but let's put it finite case if you take one lifetime, and infinite if multiple. For now let's just consider one lifetime, and then the number of days on every single day. If you were to plot what you do, right, it will be a number line in itself. And so the consequence, the vector space, the consequence of your actions will actually be a subset of what you do over this field, right? So see how beautifully your success is by your own actions is defined within a vector space, right? That's the point I'm trying to make here. So so basically the vector space will be a subset of the kind of field you have in the first place. Just like your success will define the kind of efforts on a timeline you put, right? Keep in mind now, real number and complex number is a very linear space. It is pretty straightforward. The calculations are pretty simple. This can be quadratic, cubic, it can extend to infinite. Again, you can have infinite dimensions even here, the complexity of the problem statements. But it's a little hard to think about them at this point, and so we'll skip those aspects. We're just discussing on linear spaces at the moment. Some important considerations you have to remember. Let V be a vector space over the field. Then these three conditions need to be satisfied. I'm just summarizing the three important conditions together. So you can first check for these three conditions, and if they satisfy, then you can actually check for all possible combinations of vector addition closure properties and vector multiplication closure properties, what we discussed in the previous sessions. Okay. The first one is U plus V equals U. That means that V is 0. If A dot U equals 0, that is when you're multiplying the two and you get a 0 vector. It's only possible if either your vector U is 0 or your scalar was a 0 value. And then when you multiply a -1 with your vector value, you get a negative of the vector. And this negative is the negative of the direction, right? So if your vector was in this direction and you multiplied it with -1, so the directions actually changed, okay? The sign shows the direction of a vector space which belongs to V, okay? So there's one interesting point I want to make, that we're showing both the scalar multiplication with a vector just like this. But keep in mind that when you multiply 2 with a vector 3 is not same as you multiplying 2 with 3, okay? This identity here has a magnitude and a direction too. So though the representation might look similar, they might be just two scalar values, but if you're multiplying 2 with a scalar 3, this scalar 3 is a lot different than what 3 we know on a number line plane, okay? Visually and mathematically, I will dive into this deeper a little later, but just for now, keep in mind that these two are different things. This is just a value which has no direction, and when I say 3 as a vector space, it has a direction of its own, okay, and that changes the whole chemistry of the physics in this case. Now subspaces. If V be a vector space over F, then a non-empty subset S of V is called a subspace of V if S is also a vector space with vector addition and scalar multiplication inherited from V. So we started from field, and then we discussed that vector space denoted by V is sort of a subset who's satisfying few conditions, and then it's created from the field. And then again, now we are dividing the vector space into smaller units, which is called as subspaces, and it is denoted by S, and it's again a subset of vector spaces, but again it inherits certain key laws from the vector spaces, so we have to keep that in mind as well. What are those conditions? The zero vector of V is in H, so the zero vector again has to be a part. Again, zero is really important because you are scaling, think of it as a explosion. So when explosion was nothing, it was from one electron, proton, neutron, whatever the case is, and then it explodes to give a chain reaction, right? So that point of possibility is starting from zero in this case, and that is why in deuterium structures it is important to include it always, okay? So that is zero here. So the zero vector of V is in H. For each U and V which are in H, which is our subspace, U multiplied by V and U plus V is in H. So it's closed under vector addition. The sign is not clear here. This is plus here. So U plus V is in H. Again, we are saying it's closed under addition. The two vectors U and V, which are part of our subspaces, and when you add them, the value will also be inside the subspace. And then for each U in H and each scalar V, when you multiply the scalar with a vector, it is also in your subspaces. So again, it is closed under scalar multiplication. Okay. Now let's take an example here. Let H be A, 0B. A and B are real numbers, so this is a real number line, right? So my field is of real numbers. Is H subspace of R cube? So we have to see three conditions. First one should be closed under addition, should be closed under scalar multiplication, and we should also have a zero vector in H. So let's start with that. Now here I have a zero vector. So I have a zero vector. The first condition is satisfied. It's a real number, so let's assign A as 1 and B as 2. So 1 plus 2, 3, which will also be a part of real numbers. 2 minus 1 will be a real number. So all the four operations will still be a part of real number, right? So it's closed under addition, and it's also closed under multiplication, because 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, which will be a part of real numbers. 1 multiplied by 2, which will also be a part of real numbers. So yes, to answer this question, is H a subspace of R cube? Yes, it is. And it is three-dimensional spaces because you have three entries on the x-axis, and each one represents one dimension when you are representing them in the form of matrix representation. So yes, H is a subspace of R cube, and yeah, I just proved you why it is. So that's pretty much it for this session. If you guys have any question, you can get in touch to me through the website, and I hope it made intuitive sense. What are fields, what is a vector space, then what is a subspace. I'll explain later why we need to even study such subsets of a field. We're just trying to understand vector spaces properly, so dividing them into substructures is easier to understand, right? Just like if you have to study the whole world, understanding dividing it into continents, and then continents into countries, and then countries into states, and then understanding the people's requirement becomes easier, right, on a bigger picture. That's why we're just distributing or dividing the field space into smaller spaces, which is vector space, and then further smaller into further smaller spaces, which is subspace. Nothing fancy about it, we're just still trying to understand vector spaces, okay? So that's pretty much it. Yeah, we will still be discussing vectors in the next session. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to this. Thank you once again.